the ID to cast their vote. And they have different rooms. They will go to different rooms, and in the different rooms we will see a machine. The machine is working now. So we will restart the voting now. Currently, the working staff is helping the voter to match the ID number, and he will help the voter to collect the fingerprint. Now, behind the curtain, we could ask the voter to do the casting. It is highly confidential. It is very private. Only the voter knows what he is voting and who is voting for, and only the voter could go behind the paper curtain. He will be guided by the working staff, and but there will be no companion to the voter. Currently, the voter is casting his vote. In Latin America, it is a rare case for us to see the e-voting machine. Most of the countries are using the paper to do the voting. Currently, the voters have some problems, but the working staff is well seated. He is not allowed to see or intervene the voting process. Yes, a voter is doing some adjustment, and he presses confirmation. He will receive a receipt. The receipt will be put on the voting box. It is good for the confirmation of the total voting paper. And again, the voter will get the reconfirmation from the working staff to avoid any re-voting or multiple voting. The voter should present the signature, the ID card, and the fingerprint press. The room is very calm. Only 2 to 3 voters could join in. They set rule to limit the total numbers of the voters get joined in order to prevent any leakage of the information, or there will be any missing of the ballot. After the voting, the paper receipt should be placed into the paper box. That is, the whole process get validated. Otherwise, the voting process is illegal. So let's go to the outside to find more information about the voting process. In the room, it is quite stable, and let's go and find the voices of the voters waiting for the process. Now we are in the number 5 voting room. It contains 9 voting rooms in this school, and now we have a lot of queues waiting for the voting. More than 10 voters are waiting for the voting process, and we're also seeing a large presence of the reporters and journalists, because in a short while some city mayors and ministers will do their voting. So we are seeing a lot of reporters and journalists waiting here to do the coverage. If we go to the outside place, we are seeing that most of the voters get their information registered, and they will be introduced to the voting room to cast their vote. And here comes the wall for the information confirmation. Here's a number 2 voting room. The number 3 voting room, the ID number is listed here on the column, and every voter should place information correctly. And they could find their ID number, their voting room, according to the paper pasted on the wall. It was a school. Now the place is for cutting ballots. But still, most of the voters carried out their tasks outside of their rooms. And every time, only 10 to 20 voters will be allowed to enter the voting rooms. At the gate, we are seeing some police to safeguard the security. For this general election, Venezuela is dispatching over 10,000 policemen to ensure the safety of the voting. And the Venezuela is also making sure that the whole process is safe and peaceful. Those in green are the soldiers. They are helping to maintain the peacefulness. Around 20 to 30 more voters are flooding in the room. Now it is approaching the noontime. We are not seeing too many of the voters join in. In the afternoon session, I expect there will be more voters coming. It is quite safe and quite calm. It's not like what we do expect. There were some riots, violent events, protests from the opposition parties. For this time, the security is well maintained. Everything goes on very smoothly. Venezuela is well preparing for this presidential election. For this time, there are 4 major candidates. Previously, there were 5, but now the 5th candidate dropped out, so we have 4 candidates. The most popular 2 include Maduro, the incumbent president. The second is the once governor of Lara State, Falcon. Maduro and Fallow are 2 most popular candidates based on the very popular people's poll. Their support vote are quite similar, but Maduro has advantages over Falcon. Falcon is a candidate from the opposition party in Venezuela. The opposition party leaders and the opposition party coalition will attend the presidential election. So the opposition party election will create a group to attend the presidential election. But for this time, the coalition drops out. And some of the parties within coalition also quitted. But Falcon, with his progressive century party, is moving on. For the rest of the candidates, they're not that popular, not that influential. They have lower support rate. To some extent, they organize an independent party in the short term, and they don't have extensive support. Maduro was elected in 2013 in April, and Maduro led the ballot by over 1%. Maduro was elected, and he followed the policies of Chavez. During the year period of Chavez, Maduro was designated as the next leader, the next president for the country. During the 5 years of tenure, Venezuela went through a lot of ups and downs, such as the plummeting price of the oil. United States and European countries were also giving economic sanctions on Venezuela, which caused problems for the oil export. And the local currency is seeing high deflation. The economic crisis could be felt by the local citizens. They are seeing a very difficult patch. In the last 5 years, Maduro has released very positive policies, such as the issuance of the oil currency and etc. All those policies share the same vision to stabilize the economy, and for this reason, as the successor of the Chavez, Maduro continues the previous policy. He continues to provide good welfare for the people, and he is also providing free of charge education and health care for the general public, such as the low price commodities, the good price petroleum are provided to the people. All these are the countermeasures to safeguard the basic living standards for the people. All those economic subsidies and policies are supported by the local people, so we can see the support ratio of Maduro is still standing very high. The next candidate is Henry Falcon. He holds different policy. He wants to dollarize the economy of Venezuela, and he also wants to privatize the economy for the country. Falcon hopes to work with international organizations to receive international aid and assistance, for the simple reason that the international organizations will help Venezuela to recover its economy. Now we are at the local time of 9:50 in the morning. Now we are waiting for more news from the voting process, and we want to hear more voices from the voters on the streets. The lady shared with us. She believed it was really fast, and she is a senior citizen in Venezuela. It takes her only a few minutes to finish the whole process. Now we are going to hear more voices of the voters. We want to know more about their feelings. Currently, along the streets, we could feel the calmness here. It's like a normal Sunday. People are waiting at home to celebrate the family reunion. It's not like the big event as we expect. The street here we are standing in is a place for the low and middle income families.
Now
we are seeing the presence of various reporters and journalists. They want to know more about the inside stories, and we are also seeing some signal interference from the smartphones. So sorry for the incontinuous signal from our side. Now we are going to introduce you more about this broadcasting. Now we are seeing a square building in yellow, a square building in yellow. It is a support center for the social welfare. With Venezuela, it is also one of the welfare projects in Venezuela. So we are seeing why the incumbent president is receiving more support because of those visible outcomes. I have already briefed on you the basics of the voting, the whole process. Venezuela is one of the few countries in Latin America to use e-voting machine. Some of my colleagues went to other countries in Latin America. In most cases, they are using the paper to do the voting. In Colombia, it is accused that they are running out of the paper, but the voting is not ending. So here in Venezuela, they are using a relatively advanced way to collect all the voters. So later in the day, they could announce the final results. It is more efficient. And for all the netizens, all the audiences and the listeners, you can follow us to understand more about the final outcomes of the presidential election in Venezuela. And in the noon time of tomorrow, the final outcome will be announced. So I'm going to welcome two of my colleagues, Gao Xue and Gong Xiangcheng, to give us more street experience from Venezuela. My name is Gao Xue with CCTV. I want to work with my colleague Liu Xin to give you a more in-depth report. Now we are along the street of the capital city of Venezuela, Caracas. We will give you a more in-depth report, and I now stand beside my colleague. Hello. My name is Gong Xiangcheng from the China Radio International. Now we are standing at the capital city of the Caracas. It is a very normal street. You could feel the calmness, security, and peacefulness along the street. The pedestrians and the cars are moving smoothly. So I want to ask you a question. Gu, you are the first. It is your first time to come to Venezuela. Would you mind to share with us your feelings now? Before I come here, I was told Venezuela, it is a country with a lot of natural resources. The name comes from Italian language, it means a mini Venice. So we could find all the waterborne buildings. It's like a city and a country built upon the rivers. Venezuela has a very famous mountain. I want to show you Alia Mountain. It is a great place of sightseeing, and it contains the largest salty lake, Maracaibo Lake. And it contains a waterfall as well, the Angel Waterfall. In the movie Vajik, the waterfall of Angel is going very popular. Over the years, reporters and journalists are covering the situations in Venezuela, and we are seeing some very tough words, such as shortage in living staff. It is the first time here, and when you are taking the task, are you feel a bit of nervous? Yes, sure. It is heard that we don't see too much living staff here, and there are a lot of robbery here on the streets. But now, when I came here yesterday, I feel very much nervous because I'm afraid it will be a lot of problems on the streets. But here I'm standing here, it is really calm. For time's sake, we're going to move ahead. We are seeing quite a few residents. They're coming out to do some purchasing. The lady is taking some bread. And we will lead you a dessert house. Today it is also election day for the president of the Colombia. So most of the stores will have celebration and promotion at each weekends. Most of the stores are closed up. It is the same case for Argentina. Yes, I'm a reporter with Argentina. It's quite similar to Venezuela. On Sundays, most of the stores are not operating. But today it is the election day for the Venezuela's president, so they could open and do business. So I will cross the street to see what is happening in the store. Are they selling dessert, or are the stores lacking the stuff? We know that Venezuela is a country with huge resources in oil. So it is really a big one in Latin America. So we will go in. We could see that most of the pedestrians are buying their breakfast. It is a dessert store. It is a bakery, a kind of bakery, and we could find some local desserts. It looks very tasty, but personally, I'm not a fan of the Latin American food because it is really sweety. Some of the local restaurants are waving their hands to us. In Latin America, the people are very positive and very joyful, and they are standing in the queue. Latin America has the tradition of standing in the queue in the security check or in the checking out stands. They remain standing in the queue even if it takes a very long time. And we could see some very simple daily stuff such as Coca-Cola, some candy, and the mineral water, the juicy, and the tomato sauce. So I feel it is pretty good. Yesterday, I just arrived in the city, and I went to the local shopping malls. I was updated that for today we are going to have the presidential election, and most of the shopping doors are having their door closed. But I want to share with our audiences about the daily life of the local people. So we took some photo and we took some video. So I hope that our technician will help us to play the video. Yesterday we don't have too much time, so we stay just for a little while. It's like in the afternoon of 2 to 3, we encountered quite a few consumers in the shopping mall. Have you seen around the streets? Yes, I arrived yesterday. I forgot to bring my toothpaste. I went to a pharmacy. It's like the chained pharmacy, the drugstore. We could buy some toothpaste and etc. Did you get one? Yes. The reality is we talked to some of the reporters. Over the last 2 years, Venezuela was sanctioned by the Western world. It means they will have less import. And for some daily stuff and daily goods, they cannot have access to it. Last year, I came to Venezuela back then. I cannot feel the big changes last year when I arrived here. Not far away from our hotel, I could see some protests and blocks of the roads. But this year, I came to Caracas for 2 days. It looks pretty calm. Yes, we could feel the changes of the Venezuela. This country is moving positively. So we want to share with you the stories of Venezuela because we might have some new audiences. You are using CGNT and Toutiao to watch our news. It is a live broadcasting of the presidential election of the Venezuela in 2018. I'm from my colleagues, Mr. Gong from the China Radio International and Mr. Liu Xing is visiting different voting stations, and for this time we will elect the new Venezuelan president in the next 6 years, and we have Nicolas Maduro as one of the candidates with the support rate of over 15%. The second is Falcon. Falcon is having a support rate of less than 13%. So we could wait for the final outcome between Maduro and Falcon. And we know that for this election, the newly elected president will address economic problems for the country. And yesterday we also did some interview over the last 3 to 4 months. In Caracas, the capital city, the local residents could have access to the food and the daily goods. Compared to that of last year, they could feel the improvement of the living standards. And I also have some latest figure from the BBC. BBC shows that currently the violent events compared to that of last year are reduced 75%. So that is a very obvious improvement. So along the street you can feel it is very safe. Last year, I worked with my colleague, Mr. Liu Xin, at Venezuela to do an election. But back then, we are wondering, where should we choose to do live broadcasting? Back in last year, we were unable to take the smartphone to do a live show because we were afraid there might be some robbery along the streets. So we are choosing the top of the southern TV stations in Venezuela to do the live broadcasting. But for this trip, we did understand the safety environment for this presidential election, and we find it pretty safe. We can walk along the streets to see the things are progressing, and we could feel the living standards, the living situations of the locals. I stay in Colombia and you stay in Argentina, so we could be moved by the passion of the local people, because in Colombia the people are very cool. They are not as passionate as the locals. And in Argentina, the people are also very kind of cold. But in Venezuela, the people are very joyful. They will give you greetings. They are very positive. They are very compassionate. They could contaminate my mood. Yesterday, we went to the square of Bolivar. I met a lot of senior citizens. They are like the Chinese grandpas and grandmas. They were dancing on the square. They were dancing salsa. They're very compassionate. They're very sunny. They make the life very easy and smooth, even though they were confronted with difficulties in their life. Their mentality will help them to smooth the journey in their life. This is a special day of the presidential election. The police are strengthened up to maintain their street safety and security this year to ensure the smooth going of the May 20th presidential election. Altogether, 30,000 military police were dispatched, and we could find a good outcome. The streets are very stable and peaceful. There are no protests or riots or any violent events at all. In Latin America, they are accustomed to enjoying the breakfast, the brunch at the cafe. And now we arrive one of the most popular cafe in Caracas, and we are seeing the coming and flowing of the consumers. So let's go and have a look. We want to have develop a feeling of the local people's life. It looks very neat and nice. Yes, it's like we are in the tropical area surrounded by trees, and it contains a yard, and we're going to get something eat here. And we have multiple choices. Do you feel like to pick up a piece? Yes, we have the tar. And most of the consumers are standing here in a line, and most of them are using the cars. Currently, there's a shortage of the notes, the paper notes in Venezuela, so they're encouraging the use of the card, and they are also issuing the oil currency for the daily transaction. Now we're here at the restaurant, and we have contacted our friend here, so he's been waiting us for a long time. Greetings to you. Please be seated. Mr. Liu Ye is waiting for us for a long time, and he has already bought some food here, but we want to ask you a question. Over the years of stay in Venezuela in 2018, could you feel some changes about the local environment? Or does your company give you more tips to safeguard your safety? In the last half a year, I feel there's an increase on the supply of the food, and the whole environment is also improved greatly. My company is giving us a lot of tips. What should we do along the streets, and what could we do after work? The embassies are also helping us frequently, such as during the election. What can we do? Over the last 2 days, the embassy is guiding us to live and to work. This is the morning of the weekend, and we are seeing so many people here. Yes, a lot. The local people enjoying to have the breakfast or brunch out. And today, because it is election day, we are seeing a reduction in the total numbers of consumers. So I'm going to ask you another question. So what is the level of the restaurant? It is for the rich people or for the middle-income families or for the low-income families? So it is a restaurant for the middle-income families. So let's have a look at all those cafes, 2 desserts, fruit tart. It is around 2.5 US dollars, RMB yuan of 50, 15. And we saw a lot of consumers paying via card. So how do you pay for those food? So we are using transaction or cards because it is safe, and we don't have too much cash. So the government is helping us to use card. It is a kind of indirect promotion policy for the cashless transaction. The cashless transaction, it is safe or not? it is pretty safe. You're using the debit card or Visa card. Yes, we are running out of time. We are going to thank him and we're going to conclude our live broadcasting. I hope that we're going to use more channels to share with you the presidential election. Now, on May 20th, the presidential election is started and is going to last until 6 p.m. of this day until nobody is casting anymore. And at the same day, we will see the outcomes get calculated. And in the late of this day, the result will come out. And our CCTV will give you more in-depth analysis. So this is the end of live broadcasting. Thank you very much for staying with us. See you again.